Well, when I think of worship is paying homage to God and and reverence to God. And so, one of the ways that I think, and maybe the most important way that we worship, is through obedience. And so, I have to think about what does it mean to be obedient when it comes to my marriage. And I think the way that I'm obedient in my marriage is to love my wife the way Christ loves the church. And that's with an unselfish and an undying and an unfailing love. And my wife has had some health problems over the years, and some of you know we've had a daughter who 16 years ago died. And so there were some difficult times in our lives, times when there was a great struggle just to live life. And so being obedient in my marriage during that time was making sure that I was loving my wife and encouraging her and listening to her. And now with some health issues that she faces, it's making sure that I'm not angry, and that's hard. That's hard for me. I'll be honest, to not be angry when my wife is not feeling well and I have to take on extra responsibility around the house. I think that's been difficult, and I've grown a lot in those areas in the last 10 years, let's say, of my life. But I think being obedient to Christ in my marriage is to love my wife and to know that even though she may be struggling with some health issues, that I still love her just as much as I ever would and ever did. Just kind of maybe a funny thing is the fact that I have a beard right now is because of her. She likes me having a beard, and in some ways loving her is doing some things that I would not normally do, and showing that I care about her in that way. In my family, being obedient in my family and with my children is to encourage them and to maybe do the hard things and make hard decisions sometimes that relate to my children. And that's been difficult for me to find a balance of encouraging, not exasperating them. I think early on I was better at exasperating them than I was at encouraging them. And I've learned a lot about that, and I think being obedient to Christ in my family is learning how to encourage, how to discipline, how to disciple my children, even when they're not acting the way that I would want them to act. I think for you as students, part of being obedient and part of being part of worshiping Christ in your family is being obedient and honoring your parents. I tell my students also that I am a Christian first, and accounting is what I do. So it's not that I'm an accountant and I'm here to teach at Grace College, but really what I am is I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and accounting is the way that I interact with the world, or a way that students can, once they graduate from Grace College, go out and interact with the world and be that witness and that example to the world that Christ has called them to be. And so the most important part about my life here in my work and what I'm doing right now is that I represent Christ to my students in all my classes, which is one of the reasons why I do devotionals about every day in class, is because I think sharing my heart and sharing my life and sharing my experiences with students is and probably in the long run what they'll remember more than most of them will remember the accounting that I teach. I think that we can be salt without being too salty, and we can be light without being too bright or too dim, and just have that right mix as we draw other people to Christ and we help them to see that God is not a God who is standing up there waiting to condemn us and waiting to discipline us. He's a God who desperately wants a relationship. And most people in the world don't have a clue what that relationship is all about. And so we are here in our jobs and in our communities to represent Christ and to show that God wants a relationship with them. And that is so important for us to understand.